Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 31 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Saints training camp underway in earnest. Put the pads on over the weekend for the first time. The oldest cliche in the book is separate the men from the boys, Lenny.
Yeah, something like that. But, you learn a lot more, obviously, when they're hitting as opposed to when they're just in shorts and helmets. And, obviously, like you say, Sean Payton's got a lot to learn here, having been away from this team for as long as he was. And the number I saw, maybe as many as 60 of the 90 players that are on this roster right now weren't around under a Sean Payton regime. So he needs to learn a lot about these people. Now, obviously, he's got a lot of help in terms of staff to help get him up to speed on these guys. But, we'll see, at the end of the day, he's the decision maker, and we'll see how things progress as we lead up to week one of the preseason, a week from Friday.
One of the things that we watch very carefully, and never was it more evident than this past weekend, is making sure your regiments are such that you give your players the best chance to not get hurt and to be fresh when the season starts. Some very significant injuries around the league happening over the weekend. Jeremy Maclin getting hurt, Pitta getting hurt with the Ravens. The Browns had a real scare with one of their players. Bottom line is you don't want to lose these guys prior to. We already saw Victor Butler get hurt in OTAs, so that's one of the things, as much as anything, that you look for is to stay healthy.
Yeah, the Broncos lost their starting center apparently for the year, so a lot of injuries already. And again, injuries are part of the game. You talk about cliches. That's one. That's going to happen even when you're not going through contact drills. Just one bad step sometimes, and you can tear an ACL. So it's it's part of it. You do try to minimize them. Knock on wood, so far, the Saints have been fortunate through the first 3 days of practice going into Monday that nothing of any consequence has happened at this point.
Yep, of course, they're managing the heat situation well. Practice is outside in the morning, indoors in the afternoon, providing the weather is fine. Most of the morning sessions open to the public. Of course, we'll have everything from training camp at SportsNola.com. The New Orleans Zephyrs on the road at Albuquerque. They win a game yesterday. Hatcher gets his 28th save. Smolinski homers, doubles, and now they're 8 games back of Albuquerque, trying to salvage a split in that series today. Then they come home for a homestand.
What a weird night it was Friday night. I don't know if you saw some of the pictures of that. Apparently, perhaps the highest recorded wind gust in the history of the city of Albuquerque blew through there Friday night. The tarp was all over the place. There was some question we'll be able to get the field ready to play on Saturday, but they got some good weather. They couldn't get the tarp down, as it were, with all of this wind. And Tim Grubbs from the Zephyrs posted a great picture on social media. The tarp basically covered half of the infield. The left side of the infield was exposed to all of this. So very fortunate to be able to get him in on Saturday. Unfortunately, the Zephyrs lost twice. A Monday matinee before they head back home on Tuesday.
Voodoo season's over. They got whipped at Orlando, 71-42. A very disappointing ending, not really competitive in that particular game, and realistically did not deserve to make the playoffs based upon their record and the way they played down the stretch, losing their final 3 games when they had the thing in front of them.
Yeah, clearly the West has been much better than the East all year long, and Orlando gets the last spot, along with Tampa Bay for that matter. Both at 7 and 11 are the 2 wild cards coming out of the Eastern side. You look at the Western side, it was 14 and 4 and 13 and 5 were the two wild cards. So to give you an idea of the disparity in the two sides of things this year, but still, like we talked about last week, all you can ask for is a chance to win and get into the playoffs in the last week of the season. And this was a team that was 1-8 at midseason and battled back to get to the point where they had a chance to reach the playoffs.
More recruiting news, of course, at SportsNola.com that you can check out. Our high school football previews. We'll post new ones every day. The Redemptress Wolves, once proud program that won 3 state championships in this century and went winless last year. You can read all about their new coach and how they plan to turn it around at SportsNola.com. And, of course, the American Legion State Championship Series going on in Sulphur. Unusual not to have it here, but you can follow SportsNola.com to its conclusion with the state champion coming up at midweek and advancing to the Mid-South Regional. So that's pretty much where we stand right now with the area sports scene. Colleges, they'll be kicking it off, as it were, very soon. Stay tuned, about a week away, and we'll be in full form, Lenny.
Yep, Tulane reports this weekend, LSU first the next week. It's time for those guys to get it on as well.
All right, look forward to it, and as always, it's a pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, 31 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great week, and God bless.